As odd as it might seem, it's not altogether strange to see astronauts get a little mischievous in a bid to make a light heart of the vast otherworldly space. Anyone in space can play, not just any prank. Hence, you can expect a little bit of weirdness to occur on such occasions. In this video, we will be looking at 5 weird pranks that astronauts in space have ever played. Was it all enjoyable? For known reasons, space can be pretty void of life and fun. Sometimes you cannot help but wonder how astronauts survive in space for months without a hint of fun. We understand that fun may entirely translate to a different thing when you are floating. If there were music, you'd be left wondering if they get to throw some dance moves while floating at zero gravity. No one would have thought of pranks being possible or whether they would be safe for the victim or the person carrying it out. Meanwhile, the pranks are nothing too serious anyway, ranging from mild to completely silly and nothing you'd expect from astronauts in the first place. Let us take a look at the pranks on our list. Prank number 1. Satellites for sale.
Really?
Astronauts go through stress too, and they found unimaginable ways to ease off that stress whether their space mission was successful or not. The morale has to be high always, even in the midst of the vast nothingness. This particular occasion saw 2 astronauts make light for the retrieval mission. One of the astronauts, Dale, opted to put up a for sale sign on 2 dysfunctional satellites they just retrieved. Given the situation, it was a mild joke that would bring a smile to anyone's face. And these 2 join other astronauts working with NASA in its 59 years of existence to carry out a cynical prank. A little bit of comedy like this is not bad if you had to float around in space for thousands of miles per hour. Prank number 2. Who brought a cockroach to space? The story of this prank goes a bit way back to the 1969 Apollo 12 mission. It was a bit of a funny situation, especially involving the Apollo 12 commander, Charles Pete Conrad, and his accompanying astronaut Al Bean. According to reports, both mused about sighting a cockroach attaching itself to their ship before their moon mission.
Cockroach, cockroach, cockroach!
The word created quite the unrest, especially when the mission was just about to kick off. The cockroach was said to have been spotted during a test run at the Space Center. The funny thing was that it said that the cockroach was close to the crew's living space. The rumor got to the launch director, who started to frantically search for the 6-legged intruder using all sorts of tricks, but to no avail. Others at the center mused at his efforts. The rocket took off with 3 people, and then Conrad led his men to become the 3rd man to walk the moon while the air was still not clear on the cockroach status. On the return flight and while taking part in a press conference, he held up white cardboard with a black speck with 2 extensions that seemed to look like antennae. One of his colleagues had to ask whether he had found it or not, and he mentioned that it was in the food locker. Conrad later admitted that it wasn't a natural roach, but a plastic toy he brought aboard. Was it all fake? Or was there a cockroach in Apollo 12 and did it come back with them on the trip? Who knows? But this was not the only Apollo 12 prank. The next one will wow you. Prank number 3. Same astronauts but a different prank. After the first prank, Conrad might have played the prank the first time, but he and his partner Al Bean got played on this one. Compared to this prank, the cockroach prank seems a lot milder. Conrad was on a mission with Alan Bean, joined by Richard F. Gordon Jr., and when they reached the moon, they sure had a lot of places to explore. They were tasked to receive certain parts of the Surveyor 3 probe, decommissioned after it crashed into a crater back in 1967. Another thing they had to do was take snapshots of viable spots that are likely to form destinations for future astronauts. There was a definite plan and defined time frame during which each objective was to be achieved. Due to this, a specific protocol must be established by the authorities for the astronauts to abide by to keep up with their activities, and thus, they all received a spiral notebook bound to the arms of their spacesuits. The notebooks had several instructions imprinted to guide them on what they had to do, but they also included something else in the notebooks. Conrad and Bean got to business on the surface, while Gordon kept the rocket hovering over the moon. Imagine their surprises when they found drawn-up cartoon images in the notebooks instead of instructions. As if that was not hilarious enough, Conrad flipped a page and found a piece of a Playboy magazine. He was perplexed to see a printed copy of 1969's Miss December's topless shot in his notebook. Below, it was instructions for him to describe what he saw. Bean was not left out as he had a copy of Miss January 1969 center-folded in his wrist notebook. The two kept mum about it because whatever they yapped would get transmitted back to Earth through the mics built into their spacesuits. Bean mentioned that American taxpayers would not find it funny, by the way. Prank number 4. Wife came calling. Owen Garriott went a little too far in this prank scenario as his wife suddenly dropped by on a space mission. Houston was shell-shocked to hear a feminine voice over the radio when NASA had yet to send a female astronaut to space. At least not until Sally Ride joined the 1983 crew. The supposed mission during which the prank occurred in 1973 when Owen Garriott spent 2 months orbiting the Earth. The communications expert, another Earthbound support crew member named Robert Crippen, suddenly received a weird message from Garriott's Skylab space station. A female voice filtered through the microphone saying, "Hello, this is Skylab." Crippen was aware that there were 3 men on board, but was shocked to be listening to a woman who introduced herself as Helen Garriott, Owen's wife. Out of pure bewilderment, Crippen asked her about what she was doing on the space station, and she mentioned bringing a hot and fresh homemade meal for the boys since all they'd been surviving on were just junks. The voice stated that she flew to Skylab as fast as possible to bring the hot meal, and cracked a joke about how California looked from space. The funniest thing was that it was not only Crippen that was now leaning by the speakers, and the voice signed off with a "See you later, Bob." It seemed a little too personal, and it didn't take long for the crew to figure out that it was a prank. A pretty great one, and Garriott was right in the middle of it. Can you imagine how he must have pulled it off? You can probably guess right that he had a pre-recorded message. A well-timed one at that. She had drawn a little exchange with his wife before the mission, and his wife read the dialogue with a well-timed pauses enough to convince people that it was an actual conversation. But when we learned that Crippen was actually in on it from the onset as he responded within the rehearsed timeline of each pause, it seemed that the joke was on everyone else aside from Garriott, his wife, and Crippen. The secret didn't get out until 1999 when he revealed how he had planned it. Prank number 5. Santa Claus is coming to space. Late astronaut Wally Schirra initiated a bit of a complication while manning the Gemini 6A in 1965. It occurred on December 15 in the first intership rendezvous. The 2 spaceships departed, and the following day, Schirra reported a UFO sighting moving haphazardly in and out of orbit. He seemed pretty apprehensive as he gave a description that could have only been Santa Claus and his 8 reindeers with a pilot wearing a red suit. He and his partner had planned the whole thing as they played some harmonica music, backed with some sleigh bells as they sang the Merry Jingle Bells song to the cheer of Houston and the departing Gemini 7.